All right, so we're diving deep into Forbidden Planet today, and wow, you've given us a ton of stuff to go through, articles, notes, even a whole study guide.
Looks like someone's been doing their homework.
It's pretty clear you're fascinated by this movie, and to be honest, I can see why. A starship crew, a lost colony, a robot with personality, I mean, Shakespeare in space. We've got a real expert here to help us break it all down. There's someone who knows a lot about sci-fi and all that cultural analysis stuff.
Well, it's a film that really captures that whole 1950s vibe, that mix of excitement about the future and being kind of scared of what we don't know yet.
Yeah, that's so true. So for anyone listening who maybe hasn't seen Forbidden Planet in a while, can you give us the quick rundown? What's the story all about?
Okay, so picture this. A starship crew, they're on this mission to check out what happened to a lost colony on this faraway planet, Altair the Fifth. When they get there, they find Dr. Morbius, who was one of the original colonists. He's been living there for like 20 years with his daughter, Altera. Oh, and of course, there's Robbie the robot.
Robbie the Robot. I mean, come on, he's got to be one of the first truly famous movie robots.
Right.
He was even around before Star Wars.
Totally. He's like this amazing piece of engineering. He can speak all these different languages, make any substance you can think of, and even tell a joke or two.
Okay, I gotta ask, what's your favorite Robbie quote?
When the commander's all amazed by how much oxygen there is on Altair the Fourth, and Robbie says, "I seldom use it myself, sir. It promotes rust."
That's classic Robbie.
I,
But going back to the story, there's this whole mystery about what happened to the rest of the colonists, right?
yeah, Dr. Morbius says they were all wiped out by some kind of planetary force.
But wait, wouldn't a planetary force have affected Morbius too? Seems a little suspicious that he's the only one who survived.
That's exactly what the Starship Commander thinks. And the deeper they dig, the more they realize there's something way more terrifying going on than just some planetary force.
So let's talk about the Shakespeare connection.
Yeah.
You gave us a bunch of stuff comparing Forbidden Planet to The Tempest.
It's really interesting how the film borrows from Shakespeare's play. You get this cool mix of classic literature and science fiction. Dr. Morbius is like a Prospero character. He's isolated and has all this crazy power because of the Krell technology.
Right, and Altaira, his daughter, she's never even met another human being. She's like Miranda from the play.
Yeah.
But are there deeper connections than just the characters? Are there similar themes too?
Oh, definitely. It goes way beyond just the character types. There are these shared themes of isolation, getting your hands on forbidden knowledge, and this struggle between reason and irrationality. At its heart, The Tempest is about power, wanting control, and what happens when ambition goes too far. And those same ideas are woven right into Forbidden Planet.
That's fascinating. So we've got this Shakespearean layer, and then on top of that, there's this whole psychological element, the monster from the id.
That's where the film takes this really Freudian turn, reflecting the anxieties people had during the atomic age.
Oh, I see what you're getting at. The 1950s, the Cold War, everyone being scared of nuclear.
Oh, that's exactly. And in Forbidden Planet, that fear becomes a literal monster. This creature that comes from Dr. Morbius's subconscious mind and gets amplified by the Krell technology. So instead of some outside threat, the biggest danger comes from humanity's own inner demons.
Whoa. So it's not just some sci-fi adventure story. It's like a psychological thriller digging into the dark side of human nature. But how does all this connect to the Krell? I mean, they're the ones who created this mind-blowing technology in the first place.
I think the Krells are kind of a warning sign.
Yeah.
What happens when you get all this advanced technology but you don't really understand yourself, like your own psychology?
So Forbidden Planet is saying we need to figure out our own inner world before we can really handle the outer world.
Wow.
That's pretty deep for a sci-fi movie.
It's something that feels even more relevant now, don't you think? I mean, we're dealing with AI, genetic engineering, all this stuff that's blurring the lines between humans and machines, natural and artificial. It makes you wonder, are we making the same mistakes as the Krell? Are we so busy focusing on what we can do that we forget to ask if we should?
And it's not just about those big world-changing technologies either.
Right.
The film also looks at how technology affects us on a personal level psychologically. Like Dr. Morbius creating his own monster from the id with that Krell technology.
Right. It shows how technology can make those inner demons even stronger, like our
Wow.
deepest fears and desires. In Morbius' case, it's all that buried rage and guilt he has about losing his wife, and the Krell machine just cranks it up to this destructive level.
Yeah.
It's a scary reminder that even the smartest people can be messed up by their own subconscious.
And then you've got Robbie, who seems to show that technology can be used for good, too. He's helpful, he follows orders, he's even kind of charming. He challenges that idea that all technology is bad.
Robbie's like this really interesting contrast to all the destructive stuff going on in the film. He's programmed with those 3 laws of robotics that Asimov came up with, so he can't hurt humans or disobey orders. Like, the filmmakers back in the 50s were already thinking about the ethical side of AI.
But even Robbie brings up some tough questions. If we think about the bigger picture, is he actually sentient? Does he have free will? Or is he just a really complex tool, just doing what his creator wanted him to do? It makes you wonder where we draw the line between human and machine.
And those questions are even bigger now with all these AI systems that can learn, adapt, even create Forbidden Planet. Makes us face these uncomfortable truths, these gray areas ethically that we can't just ignore.
It's like the film is holding up a mirror, showing us our own worries about the future, the choices we make, what might happen because of what we do.
And the visuals totally add to that feeling of unease. The special effects were groundbreaking for the time. The huge spaceship, the Krell city underground, the lighting, it all creates this otherworldly atmosphere that's both captivating and creepy.
Oh, for sure. The visuals were amazing for 1956. And we can't forget about the electronic music either.
Yeah.
It was so new back then. Those weird soundscapes really add to that eerie, almost dreamlike feeling.
It's kind of funny when you think about it. The score almost didn't happen because the musicians' union wouldn't let them use regular instruments. So Bebe and Louis Barron created this totally electronic score using these circuits and tape manipulation techniques.
And it's become one of the most iconic scores in sci-fi history. Talk about turning a problem into a masterpiece.
Yeah, it was a totally revolutionary way to do film music, and it paved the way for using electronic music in tons of movies and TV shows.
Forbidden Planet really pushed the limits of filmmaking, both visually and in terms of the themes it explored. But of course, no film is perfect.
Yeah.
We do need to talk about some of the criticisms, though, especially how Altara is portrayed and the lack of diversity in the crew.
You're right. Looking at it now, those parts of the film are definitely problematic. Altara is often treated like an object, and her character just doesn't have the same depth or agency as the male characters.
It's too bad, but it's important to remember that those portrayals were just reflecting how society was back then.
Exactly. It's like a reminder that even the most groundbreaking art can be a product of its time,
Yeah.
carrying the biases and limitations of the people who made it and the society they lived in.
It's almost like the film is saying, hey, look what we can imagine, what we can create. But then it also whispers, don't forget about the human side of things, the consequences, the stuff we might get wrong. That's what makes Forbidden Planet so interesting even now, that mix of optimism and caution. It really blows my mind that a film from 1956 can still be so relevant today.
Forbidden Planet just nails those universal themes, our fascination with technology, that worry about the future, that never-ending battle between our good and bad sides.
It's like we're looking into a time capsule, seeing the hopes and fears of a whole different era. But it also touches on something deeper, something that's always true about being human,
And it does it with such a unique style. The special effects, the set design, the costumes, they all create this sense of awe and possibility.
You pointed us to some really cool articles about the film's visual impact. It seems like Forbidden Planet had a huge influence on all those sci-fi movies and shows that came after it.
Absolutely. You can see its fingerprints all over Star Trek, Star Wars, you name it. That sleek spaceship design, all that futuristic tech, the way they use color and light. It all helped create a visual language for sci-fi that we still recognize today.
And then there's Robbie. He's become a legend all on his own.
He's like the blueprint for all those movie robots that came after R2-D2, C-3PO, even Data from Star Trek. Robbie showed us what a helpful, non-threatening robot could look like.
And he did it with such style. That silver dome head, those glowing eyes, those articulate hands. He's just so cool.
A true design marvel, for sure. But beyond the cool looks, Robbie represents this deeper question about how we relate to technology.
Yeah.
Can we create machines that are both smart and good? Can we stay in control of what we create, or will it end up controlling us?
Those are questions we're still wrestling with today, especially as AI gets more and more advanced.
Forbidden Planet forces us to think about the ethical side of all this technological advancement. It reminds us that progress isn't free, and we need to really pay attention to what might happen because of what we do.
So after this deep dive into Forbidden Planet, what's the biggest takeaway for you? What's that one thing you hope our listener keeps thinking about?
I think Forbidden Planet challenges us to really think about the choices we make as individuals and as a whole society. It reminds us that technology is powerful, but it's ultimately our responsibility to decide how we use it for good or for bad.
That's such a powerful message, and it couldn't be more relevant today in our world that's so driven by technology.
Forbidden Planet might have been made almost 70 years ago, but its warnings about unchecked power and the importance of knowing ourselves are more relevant now than ever.
Well said. Thanks for walking us through Forbidden Planet. It's been a blast exploring this truly iconic film.
Oh, it was my pleasure. It's always a treat to revisit a classic like this and find new layers of meaning.
And for our listener, if this deep dive into Forbidden Planet has got you curious about classic sci-fi, I really recommend checking out Metropolis. It's a silent film from 1927, but it deals with themes of social inequality and the dangers of technology that are surprisingly relevant to our world today. It's a visual masterpiece and a great companion piece to Forbidden Planet.
Metropolis gives us this amazing glimpse into the early days of sci-fi and shows how those timeless themes have been keeping audiences hooked for almost a century.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.